Okay, we're now one of the largest podcasts in the world, and we were we were doing okay last year's impeachment. Then we shifted 1 year ago. Next Saturday, I think it is. There'll be a 1 year anniversary of pandemic, and I can't tell you the number of times people came to me and says, "Hey, you got to take, pandemic's over. You got to take the name tag up." Nah, I don't think so. Don't think so. Not until you get to Wuhan. Not until you get into that lab. Not until you get into their bioweapons program. Is not over. What did Dr. Li Mingyang tell us back in June on this show? She said, "Hey, as soon as you come out with any kind of vaccine, you're going to see all these other ones pop up that have different attributes to them and more contagious, right?" And I'm not a believer in that they purposely released it. I strongly believe it's a bioweapons program that we know, and I believe it was a gain of function experiment gone awry that they couldn't control because the bat lady, remember the bat lady is what the mainstream media puts up as a saint. There's Dr. Li Mingyang who comes in and said she's dangerous. She's incompetent. She's running that bioweapons program down there. She doesn't know what she's doing, and this is the problem. And we had a couple of, remember, Peter, we had a couple of emails, I think, or messages from guys at the State Department saying it's a problem. This whole thing, and don't forget Tony Fauci. Always remember, gain of function, Tony Fauci. No, don't. But I don't want gain of function and Tony Fauci. Gain of function, Tony Fauci. The mainstream media, who's the biggest defenders of this guy, gain of function and Tony Fauci. Okay, just remember that, ladies and gentlemen. It's all going to be revealed, as we've talked about on the show for a year. One of the reasons was we knew guys like Peter Navarro. Go ahead. Yep. Go ahead, sir.
Let me say something really important here. You have to separate this idea of whether or not the virus was intentionally released or not. Okay, just put that aside for now. Let's assume it was all an accident. Here's what was not an accident. They hid the virus for 2 months. 2 months. While they hid the virus, they did two heinous things. One is they sent tens of thousands of Chinese nationals around the world in gleaming airliners and effectively seeded and spread in Milan and New York and everywhere in between. And we know that that was wrong because as they were allowing international travel, what did they do, Steve? They locked down the entire country of China, just locked it down tighter than a Xinjiang concentration camp. And so that was wrong. Now, the other thing they did, Steve, equally heinous, China, factory floor of the world, right? Big net exporter of PPE, personal protective equipment, the gloves, the goggles, the masks, the N95, all that stuff our healthcare workers needed to protect themselves from that Chinese CCP virus. Okay? What did they do? They went from a huge net exporter to a huge net importer over a 60-day period. They vacuumed up everything. And so when I'm sitting there in the White House trying to get enough PPE for the hospitals in New York City or Chicago or New Orleans, guess what? They had cleaned out the marketplace. That was murder. So they created the pandemic by allowing international travel. That's on the CCP.
Yep.
And they killed incalculable amounts of people by vacuuming up the PPE. So put aside the issue of whether it was intentional or whatever. Okay, fine, we can debate that, right? But you can't debate the fact that they 100%. Did those two things and basically created a pandemic. Good for Mike Pompeo. I mean, Mike Pompeo has been an absolute rock in this administration on China, and I can't say the same thing about some of the other people that have been in the presence of the president in our cabinet agencies or in the West Wing.
Dial that back for now. Okay, let's go. I want to stay on this topic. This is the fight. Remember, a year ago this week, there are two speeches given. In Davos, 4 years ago. 4 years ago, there's two speeches. She goes to Davos and talks about globalization and how they're winning to the party of Davos, right? Davos man. And all the banks and everything like that has winning. And then Donald Trump gives his inaugural address 2 days later, which talks about the defense of the nation state. That is the broad strokes of the fight we have today. It is populist nationalists through the world looking at the sovereignty of their country, understand they're part of an international order, but it's sovereignty of their country, versus these globalists. And the globalists come, why are we a year into this when guys on this show and people like Peter Navarro and others, and Peter Navarro writing memos saving millions of lives, when Tony Fauci goes on WABC on the 23rd of January, right after our show inaugurates, and says there's nothing to worry about here, this is nothing burger, right? And he then fights Dr. Peter Navarro. Peter Navarro has to write a memo for the president.
And Steve,
hang on. The president does a courageous.
He will fight me.
Tell us about that, sir.
Situation Room, right? It's a scene right out of the West Wing. If you did a documentary on that, I come in there going to make the case that we need to pull down those flights. To me, it's the most intelligent thing in the world on behalf of the president, right? And I didn't know Fauci at the time. I didn't know Redfield at the time. And these two guys are sitting across from me. Mulvaney's down the end of the table. And within 5 minutes, this son of a bitch is telling me travel restrictions don't work in his like Brooklyn accent. And it's like, what are you talking about? We're going to bring 20,000 people in a day from China. And that's, if we stop doing that, that's not going to help. And he was just adamant about it. I didn't know who he was, but I walked out of there thinking, wow, that's an arrogant son of a gun right there. That guy's trouble. And that's when I wrote the memo. I went back and I wrote that memo and basically said, hey, pandemic might be coming. We could lose trillions of dollars in lost economic output, and we could lose hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of lives if we don't take this action now.
By the way, real quickly, because I got Mayor Rudy Giuliani now booted up. We had a slight technical problem, and that was me. I didn't understand what the messaging was. We're going to go to Mayor, but real quickly, we're going to spend more time on Wuhan. We're going to get to show all the receipts on Wuhan. Real quickly, you've come out with the third part of your report, and I'm proposing struggle sessions. We are open to provide a struggle session to any media company, any think tank, any politician, anybody in the world. We're like Fresno State. We will go anywhere. We'll play anywhere, anytime, in anybody. Cortez, Navarro, and Bannon, okay? Showing you about voter, ballot, and election fraud, and I don't care if you don't like to hear it, okay? We've got the receipts. We'll travel anywhere, and we'll give you a struggle session.
Got the receipts.
We got the receipts. Real quickly, the last party.
Got the receipts.
Before I get Mayor Giuliani on, this is going to be a huge predicate on the trial of the century, because now they're saying they can't. They know they can't prove the speech incited everybody because they're dead wrong. Liz Cheney. They know they can't do that, and every day more information comes out. You see Antifa and all these other guys, these bad elements were planning this well in advance, had nothing to do with the speech. They never heard the speech. Right? Never heard the speech. You're up there before the president's taking the stage. That's going to collapse. So then they got to go back to, what really incited it was the 8 or 10 weeks of the lies and misrepresentation. No. You're liars. No. We have the receipts. Yeah. Okay? And so real quickly, tell us what you got, and because I got to go to the mayor.
So it's volume 3 of the Navarro report. What this one does, one picture is worth 1,000 words. It takes all the 6 battleground states and by subcategory, tabulates all the potentially illegal votes. It's the most exhaustive statistical study. And it's the name of the report is Trump Won. I wish I had called it The Big Truth, based on what has been happening. But Real P Navarro at Twitter, you can download it there, or NavarroReport.com, or it's up on the pandemic. But these 3 reports, Steve, you, me, and Cortez, will be Fresno State going anywhere, but we're also going to run the Green Bay sweep and just go over these guys. And bring it on Jake Tapper, bring it on anybody you want. We're ready.
Jake Tapper, you'd be the first one. Okay, Navarro, we're going to put up on our live stream more about this on Monday. The great Peter Navarro. He always punches above his weight, and I want to thank you for the nation and, quite frankly, for the world, Dr. Navarro. If you had not written that memorandum and walked the President of the United States through that in the closing days of January of 2020, and the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, had not had the courage and the fortitude to agree with that memo and to take those courageous steps of which he was vilified, right, against Fauci. Remember Fauci. Closing borders doesn't work. Travel restrictions doesn't work. No, Dr. Fauci, once again, you're wrong on something so fundamental. that would have cost hundreds of thousands or more of millions of lives. Dr. Navarro, I want to thank you for the nation and the world. Thank you very much.
Take care, Patriot.
Thank you, sir. Citizen Navarro. Okay, now we're going to go to the president's lawyer and America's mayor. It'd be Rudy Giuliani. So, Mayor Giuliani, we don't have time to get into Wuhan and talk about all these massive revelations that are coming out every day from intelligence dumps and the State Department. I want to go back. Don't think the war room's up to speed on it, but I don't think the world is quite understand that we are, at least the way Chuck Schumer and Mitch McConnell are talking, and the Daily Mail is a huge story that McConnell's cut loose all this. He's not whipping the vote. He's told everybody, hey, vote any way you want to vote because he wants to purge Trump from the Republican Party. We're a week away from really what will be the trial of the century. I just like you. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on where we are, at least as far as process goes, since this could happen a couple of days after Biden's inauguration?
Well, obviously you always have to prepare for all possibilities if you're a lawyer or almost anything else. So, I mean, it would be entirely unfair to do that since they gave him virtually no discovery during the impeachment process, meaning they produced no evidence. They impeached him on the newspapers and television reports. That was it. So the first thing I do is I'm preparing it just in case, is file a motion to dismiss it as a totally illegal impeachment. It didn't follow any of the rules we followed in prior impeachments, even the last one they did, which was illegal. And I think that has a fair chance of winning in the courts. Maybe a good chance of winning. I would say a great chance of winning if it were for some of the surprising decisions.
Mayor, we've got 2 minutes in this segment. We're going to hold you over, but the question of due process. Everybody's bringing it up. The Wyoming chairman made it a key part of his thing to Liz Cheney to blast her. Walk us through due process, and did the president get it in the House, and is that enough to basically dismiss us?
I think so. Look, there's not much written about impeachment, but in all prior impeachments, the president got a chance to put his story before the House of Representatives. He got a chance to cross-examine witnesses. He even got a chance to present witnesses. President Trump got none of that. He had no lawyer present. He wasn't allowed to testify. He couldn't call witnesses. And they didn't bother to call witnesses, so he couldn't even cross-examine them. In the last one, they wouldn't let him cross-examine them. He was unrepresented completely in the process. And that violates all prior impeachments that have been done in the United States. So they made up a special impeachment, the Donald Trump impeachment, and it has no due process, not even a fig leaf of due process. I think that's a very, very good reason to dismiss it and call it illegal without any question. And the Supreme Court would do a great favor for America because it would stop the politicizing and the criminalizing of politics, which has gone to now an extreme. We've got to get out of this process of impeaching for everything we don't like, no matter who we are. Because, we're going to do the same thing to him.
Mayor, we're going to take a short commercial break. We're going to return with America's Mayor, Rudy Giuliani, discussing the legal aspects of the Senate trial when we return on War and Pandemic.
To the end, just watch and see. It's all started, everything's begun, and you are over. Cause we're taking down the CCP. Spread the word all through Hong Kong. We will fight till they're all gone. We rejoice when there's no more. Let's take down the CCP. They have all lied for too long.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, is it now official there are 25,000 troops that are going to come here?
CNN is reporting that they're going to have 25,000 troops present to protect the people's house. But if we remember, I don't remember any troops present to actually protect houses belonging to people.
Okay, I want to... I think it's very important for the FBI and the Department of Justice to come forward. I think they got to have a press conference today or tomorrow. I think somebody's got to come up and talk about what kind of threat we're talking about. We are, correct me if I'm wrong, 10 days away from the 6th. Today's the 16th, 10 days. What has changed on the intelligence and information they have today than they had on the 5th of January, where they had a bunch of bicycle racks and the Capitol Hill police force, which is it's not something that's going to intimidate anybody. I just don't understand this. This is now to the point of, and I'm sure. Look, we are all about making sure the Capitol, making sure the city, but this is a green zone. This city was locked down to a degree in 2017 for President Trump, but nothing like this. I mean, you had the massive. We can show you the massive protest they had, and the place looked like Beirut in the afternoon. Let me go back. We're on a time clock with Mayor Giuliani. Mayor, this is what I think. I want to make sure all of our audience comprehends. Essentially, with Nancy Pelosi delivering the document on maybe Tuesday afternoon, Joe Biden being inaugurated Wednesday, the Senate coming back for business Wednesday afternoon, the two Democratic senators, I think, being sworn in, Greg Mans Friday morning, Chuck Schumer with the tie going to Kamala Harris, the vice president, president of the Senate. He would be the majority leader. I mean, this trial under Democratic rules, they could debate the rules on Thursday, but go to Friday. You could be a week away from a trial. So, give us your thoughts on that. The motion to dismiss, how long would that take? And what we're just trying to get people tomorrow's news today.
Let me give you two thoughts on it. Okay. Thought number one is, as a trial lawyer and litigator, I'd go to trial with them tomorrow and beat the crap out of them. They have no case. They don't have a case legally. He didn't commit anything approaching any kind of crime. There was no incitement. There was no, the incitement was the proximate cause of nothing because there was none. And now I'm almost in a position in about 2 days perfectly to prove that it was completely organized by outside forces intending to create that result. In other words, it's another Democratic frame-up. I'm ready to prove that. Fine. However, the reality is that they haven't given him due process, and that has to be litigated even for other presidents. We can't let this become the norm. In 3 days, they can impeach a president, and in 2 days, try him. I mean, we give a guy who holds up a bank more due process than that. I mean, you get an actual indictment. Right? You then get their case. They have to give you all their evidence. You then get to review their case, and you defend your client. So we're gonna treat the president like they treat defendants in Venezuela. I mean, that's crazy. And I know it's not a criminal trial, but they say it's akin to a criminal trial. I can't believe the chief justice would approve that, because that really would hurt his reputation.
Mayor, can I ask you?
Throw out all the norms.
Mayor, it's Jack Maxey.
Throw out all the norms of criminal justice. Yeah, Jack.
I want to ask you a question, which is kind of disturbing to me, because remember, this whole impeachment process started out with a threat from one branch of government to the other. Remember, Nancy Pelosi said the executive branch follows through on the 25th Amendment, or we impeach. This does not seem to be a process of justice that befits the American people, to threaten you with one thing and then another. This is the same thing that they claimed that Donald Trump did with the president of Ukraine in the phone call in the first impeachment.
A very, very good point, Jack. I mean, you could call this an extortion rather than an impeachment, right? This is a definite extortion. If you do what I want, you're free. If you don't, we're going to destroy your presidency and make it impossible for you to run for president again. It's definitely extortion, and we can make out a pretty good case it's bribery. Committed by the entire House of Representatives. That's another reason why I think it would be dismissed as an illegal impeachment. I mean, the impeachment clause is broad, but it doesn't allow you to destroy the rest of the Constitution. No clause in the Constitution allows you to destroy all the other clauses in the Constitution.
Mayor,
that's what they've done.
Mayor, a couple other questions we get from our audience all the time, following on what Tom Cotton said. Is it actually been litigated enough that if an officer like the president leaves office, can you still impeach? Tom Cotton says this whole process, this trial, is overcome by events. That is, the president is so. Just walk our audience through what are all the constitutional issues that, and how does that all get rectified even before you go to trial?
On a motion to dismiss. So, for example, there have been, as I recall, two impeachments that took place The trial took place after. They were all for lower officers, not for the president. And there is a difference in the presidential impeachment and an impeachment, let's say, of a judge or someone else. The way the impeachment clause is written, and if you go through the background of it, it was intended to take you out of office. And then after that, the criminal process takes over. I think the better view is that you cannot be tried for impeachment after you're out of office, because the whole purpose of impeachment ends once you're out of office. So it's a useless proceeding. The mere fact that you can, stop him from having office, well, you had to do that while he was in office. And I don't think the court favors, any court should favor things that disqualify you from office. You have to strictly comply with that, meaning that deprives America of democracy. Suppose two-thirds of the American people want him by the time we get to 3.5 years from now.
Mayor, real quickly, John, you broke the story on John Sullivan, your research team with Bernie Carrick and the other researcher you have on this show. I think it was Monday. Then he was charged, I think, the day afterwards. There's another charge today. I don't know if you heard about Jack Posobiec reporting that in Tallahassee, an Antifa guy, former military who had trained with a radical terrorist in the Middle East and Syria, now has been arrested by the FBI. Charging document talks about he wanted to attack MAGA followers at Tallahassee, I think on some rally they were thinking of having on Inauguration Day. You made an explosive comment earlier. Your investigation and other information you're going to put out, quote, I think you said it's a Democratic frame-up, this inciting. Could you give us any more details of what you've got coming out that's going to basically give evidence or receipts, or you can back that statement up?
Well, I think we have gotten much further now in having solid evidence that there were about 200 to 300 MAGA people at the rally.
MAGA, hold it, MAGA or Antifa?
I'm sorry, excuse me. No, that wouldn't. Let me put it another way. The people at the MAGA rally, which I call the MAGA rally, were not major participants in the riot that took place. First of all, they all got there late. By that time, a lot of stuff had been done. Second, they didn't organize it. We now know it was organized by a combination of Antifa and two other groups, which they actually talked about beforehand. We now have evidence that it was, planned as a coalition, and that they were basically going to make the MAGA people look like they were involved in it, but they would drive the violence. We have evidence now of that. So if we have to try this case, I have witnesses I can put on the witness stand who will testify to that, and I have some recordings that corroborate it. So now it's clear this was a planned rally, but it's not just by Antifa plus two. Let's put it that way. The FBI statement that there was no Antifa involvement is just yet another of the FBI's attempt to cover up in favor of Democrats and against Republicans. And that'll just increase the FBI's investigating in me. But they are a disgrace to the United States at this point in the way they are operating.
Mayor, yes.
The one good thing is they arrested Sullivan, but he was let out of jail already, even though he's being charged not only with inciting this riot, but inciting a riot in Utah. And two people died during both those riots, and they let this guy out of jail.
Mayor, you broke this story on War Room. You then had it up on your Common Sense podcast, which is explosive. Then they charged him. They had a press conference yesterday that they took offline and they only had a short statement and answered questions from a select group of correspondents. They would not invite a broad guys like Jack Posobiec and people know what's going on here. They did not mention at all Sullivan. They did not mention at all Antifa. They have still taken this hard line that Antifa had nothing to do with this. What say you, sir?
Read the messages sent out by Sullivan, in which he references Antifa, calls upon his Antifa followers to come. Take a look at the video. We can facially identify at least 8 or 10 Antifa people already, and they have facial identification techniques that we don't have. I don't know why the FBI lied about Russian collusion. I don't know why they withheld evidence that constituted a lie about Ukraine, and I have no idea why they want to paint this as a riot that took place without the participation of Antifa. Were they the only one to organize it? No. But the other two groups were equally antagonistic to Trump. Was it organized to hurt Trump? Yes. It was organized to hurt Trump. And those of his followers who took part in it, well, they should be punished too if they did anything wrong. But
100%.
In essence, they were taking advantage.
100%. Mayor, real quickly, Rudy's Common Sense is on fire. How do people get to your podcast, and what's your social media? We got about 30 seconds.
Well, getting to my podcast, you go to rudyscommonsense.com, and I'm on Rumble also and a number of others. YouTube still is banning me, which is the best reason to listen to my podcast, because you know it contains a lot of truthful and strong information if YouTube is banning me.
What Twitter or anything else, or you've been banned there? You still up on Twitter?
I don't know, every other day.
Okay.
I'm up, I'm off.
Mayor
they carefully review what I write.
Okay.
And then decide whether I can talk.
Rudy's Common Sense in his daily show, 3 to 4 on WABC. Thank you, Mayor, for joining us.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, everybody, I want you to text War Room, that's one word, War Room, to 888-111. Download the Real America's Voice app, or you can go to War Room, that's one word, with two R's, one word with two R's, .org. You can join the community there. Also, you can watch the show. And America's Voice, that's one word, .news. America'sVoice.news, that's where you can get in the live chat. We want everybody in the live chat. Okay. Also, Minds.com, Gab, Rumble, every podcast platform, PopulousPress.com, Creative Destruction Media, and many, many, many others. Go there, watch, join the community, push it out everywhere. Get all your friends, if you so like the content. We're going to have Tom Norton's and Tom Norton's site. You got that, Greg Mans? Where is it?
Yep, we're going to put it up on our site.
Tom Norton's a guy going to primary Meyer in Michigan 3. Also, we are going to wait and see who's going to primary Liz Cheney. I'm sure they're going to have a couple of people. One of the county district guys out there say she couldn't win a primary for dog catcher. Okay. We're now going to. We got two great guests. I want to bring back in Jack Posobiec. Do I have Jack Posobiec? Jack, can you hear me? Before I get to Wuhan, because this is really going to drive in the audience right now on a global basis. Of everything we're talking about, this is the railhead of all the agony in the world today. Jack Maxey, I want you to read the end of what Pompeo put out. This is very important. What did I say? Back in March, we were doing a WABC show. We did the War Room morning. We have the afternoon show. Part of the afternoon show for an hour, I think, was WABC. And this is when they started burying all those people over in that island. They had the photo, if you remember, they had I think 50 caskets lined up in essentially a mass grave, right?
In the Potter's Field.
The Potter's Field. And I said, eventually every casket's going to have a lawyer, right? Every casket's going to have a lawyer. Mr. Jack Maxey, can you read from Pompeo's statement?
The COVID-19 pandemic was avoidable. Any responsible country would have invited World Health investigators to Wuhan within days of an outbreak. China instead refused offers of help, including from the United States, and punished brave Chinese doctors, scientists, and journalists who tried to alert the world to the dangers of the virus. Beijing continues today to withhold vital information that scientists need to protect the world from this deadly virus and the next one. The United States reiterates the importance of unfettered access to virus samples, lab records, and personal eyewitnesses. Until the CCP allows a full and thorough accounting of what happened in Wuhan, it is only a matter of time until China births another pandemic and inflicts it on the Chinese people and the world.
Okay, all the agony in the world, all the deaths in the world, it goes back to the Chinese Communist Party. Who warned us about that? The great Miles Guo has been warning America about this for years, and specifically when this broke, when we were doing the Lunar New Year today, a year ago, in New York City. This is when he said, hey, all this is happening. Li Mingyan had gone, she came forward on a podcast of Luda a couple of days later to tell the world the story. I want to go to Jack Posobiec. Do I have Jack? Jack, I want to put in a frame because we got Dr. Li Mingyan. I'm going to go to her in a second. How important is what the State Department came out with overnight and the impact it's going to have on our listeners' lives?
Well, Steve, I'd like to remind everyone of an old Communist Party saying that was said back by Chairman Mao. It was said all throughout by Deng Xiaoping in the 70s. 实事求是, seek truth from facts. We are using the facts to seek the truth of what went on here. The start of COVID-19, the start of everything that has led to, remember, the COVID-19 was the reason for the mail-in ballots. That was the reason for the low integrity election that was held, for everything else that we've talked about. It all goes back to Wuhan. And the fact that Secretary Pompeo was willing to take the step of stringing it all together, what we've talked about, the gain of function, we've talked about the military programs that were going on there, classified, not living up to their obligations under various bioweapons treaties that they have to report, right? This is what China was doing. And the key here is, are we going to actually hold China accountable? We're going to hold the CCP accountable for what they did, not just to the world, but first to the Laobaixing of China. This is a huge problem, and they know it's on their hands because of the amount of economic and cultural ties that we now have between the United States, between the West, and the CCP.
Jack, this has come from, obviously, the tremendous reporting coming out of Australia. They talked about the Five Eyes program. They've been looking at this now for months and months and months and months. The intelligence services, were in back of this. Pompeo, I think, finally forced people's hands. Because I'm going to give you signal, not noise. The Biden administration just got jammed up, okay? There are no coincidences. Mike Pompeo is a warrior. This thing got dropped today or got dropped yesterday for a reason. He's just jammed up. Tony Blinken and all the appeasement. His tweet just out. The appeasement. Mike Pompeo is very precise with his words. The appeasement of Wall Street, the City of London, the global corporations, the Party of Davos, to the business model of the slave labor that the Chinese Communist Party employs on Laobaixing, all 100 names. And now you go back to the railhead of their lies and their misrepresentations about their bioweapons program and what they've been doing in these labs, in particular the P4 lab in Wuhan. The spin and the lies are all out. So, Jack Posobiec, before I bring in Dr. Yan, any closing ideas, concepts you want to give us? You're going to now be on here all the time because this is the most important story in the world, as we told you a year ago. Mr. Posobiec.
I'd love to see President Trump, if he wants to go out with a bang, he's got 4 days left. I'd love to see an executive order targeting business practices derived from slave labor. How would all these firms that do their sourcing in China, Foxconn, Apple, the rest of it, how would they like it to know that their products were derived from slave labor? We know they're trying to fight this. We know Nike's trying to fight this. Adidas is trying to fight this with the Uyghurs, right? Let's take it to them and say that you can't sell those products, or we're going to slap tariffs on you even harder than we did before.
Jack Posobiec. What's your Twitter handle, Jack, while you're still up?
At Jack Posobiec, JackPosobiec.
Jack Posobiec from One America's News. Thank you very much, sir. Honored to have you on.
Thanks, Steve.
Okay, the 2020 War Room Pandemic Woman of the Year for her bravery, her courage, her patriotism, and love of her country, love of her people, from mainland China, then to Hong Kong, to the lab, the WHO lab, reference lab there, who's a witness of fact of what happened here, particularly with the Beijing CDC, but gave the West a warning. The reason she defected, left her husband, her family, her parents, her friends, her career to come to the West to warn them about what Mike Pompeo just told us. So, Dr. Li Mingyan, you've seen what's coming out right now, and I realize you even have a tougher interpretation of this. Just tell us where we stand right now from what you know are facts and what's coming out in the West as the accusations against the Chinese Communist Party and particularly the Batwoman in Wuhan?
Morning, sir. Thank you. So first, I want to tell people this statement is a very great process towards the truth of COVID-19, but it's still not enough because we don't have much time. And now we know from the statement that Wuhan Institute of Virology under CCP control is the place that the COVID-19 virus come from. And that is one of the many institutes which is engaged into this kind of virus or novel pathogen works encouraged by CCP for years. And also they have their own data publication shows their capacity. And later the statement shows that there is gain of function experiment in WIV conducted mainly by Xi Jinping, Batwoman, and also other experts involved the Western scientists. And the last thing is very important that the military-civil fusion work between WIV and other military labs are confirmed. That means this is a potential bioweapon program working there. And later you see what happened. I think you can make the judgment whether this is bioweapon or biowar or not.
Okay, Dr. Yan, hang on for a second. I just want to make it clear. You have said from the beginning that what happened in Wuhan was not just science and university research, but you have said from the very beginning that was an active bioweapons experimental laboratory. And Pompeo basically has come out and agreed with that. You're saying something else, though, that this is much deeper than they're letting on. It's a much more fundamental and basic and core part of the Chinese Communist Party's bioweapon program, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I want to ask you about the Bat Lady. She's been held up in global media as kind of a hero. Oh, she goes to these caves and she identified the wet market as a problem. She goes to these caves because she's trying to help mankind. In fact, the reason she's doing these experiments is the gain of function is to make the viruses more deadly, is so that she can find therapeutics and she can find vaccines. So she's a hero. And Dr. Li Man Yang is a Miles Gross, Steve Bannon creation nutcase. Okay? So now we're finding out when they're putting out, Dr. Yan, that the State Department, the intelligence services don't agree with the media, that maybe she's not a hero. Can you give us your opinion of what you think about the Batwoman?
Okay, actually, Batwoman Xi Jinping is just one of the leading experts Chinese Communist Party promoted to the world to help them control control this field and be the top people that expert which can lead people to believe. I mean, they want people to trust this kind of scientist, this kind of expert. So they promote her there as they promote Dr. Tedros in WHO, and also as they put their people in top journals or top the scientific world. So these people, they can control the concept, textbook, they can make up data, and also they tell you where are the experts. You know nothing, you have to listen to us. She is just one of them. She definitely knows a lot and involved a lot into the bioweapon programs, but she is definitely not the only one. You check the background and check other things I presented in the reports, you will see the military expert and the Western scientists, they are not a nonsense too.
Dr. Yan, hang on for 1 second. I want to keep you over and we're going to break. Okay, I just want to frame this when we come back. All the scientific journals, this shows you where the corruption is. This is not a conspiracy. I'm telling you how the system works. The CCP's money, which the WHO is a wholly owned subsidiary of the Chinese Communist Party, okay? This is why they kowtowed. This is why they lied. And what's the responsibility of Tedros? Personal liability for the lies they knew they told in 14 January, a year ago, and they said there's no human-to-human transmission. A bald-faced lie. And what about Lancet? What about these other journals that have covered up for the Chinese Communist Party in Wuhan? The reason you're broke, The reason you can't go around your city, the reason you can't watch football in a stadium, the reason your kids are not in college is because the railhead of that is the bioweapons program in Wuhan. We've known it for a year, and the rest of the world suppressed it. We'll be back in a moment.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Seek truth from facts. And someone who did that and showed the courage to leave her country and to come here to the West where she thought she would get a fair hearing, and she did not. This platform and G News and GTV made sure the truth that she had to say got out to the West. And if people had listened to Miles Guo, and if people had listened to Dr. Li Mingyang, and people had listened to Luda, and people had listened to War Room Pandemic a year ago, the agony, the financial misery, all of it could have been avoided. But you didn't. You listened to the mainstream media. Let that be a lesson, because we're now going to get revved up on the problem of Wuhan. Dr. Li Mingyang, we don't have enough time today. We're going to bring you back on a regular basis starting next week. But I just want people, how did the people, to get up to speed, get the 2 white papers that you have done so over the weekend we can put it up and people start to get the background so we get back on this? How do they get access to your 2 white papers that blew people's heads up? Is one you got Tucker Carlson. How did they get it?
The 2 reports, right? I
Yes.
have put it in my Twitter pin. The pin one is the 2 reports plus the response to CNN fake news. So people can go to follow my Twitter at Dr. Li Mingyang 1. And that is the Twitter Jack Maxey and Raheem followed. So you can see whether it's a real one.
Yeah, that's why Jack Maxey and Raheem are down. Okay, Dr. Li Mingyang, how about what's your Twitter? What's your Twitter account again?
At Dr. Li Mingyang and plus number 1.
You're a hero to the people of China. You're a hero to La Beijing, to the deplorables, people in the United States throughout the world. It's your knowledge and fortitude that has been so amazing to see. We're honored to have you on here. We look forward to having you back next week.
Thank you, sir.
You know, the truth will set you free. And imagine this. Listen, I think in future decades, we're going to look back at this little elegant scientist, and her words and her courage are going to be seen as responsible for freeing over 1 billion Chinese people living under the boot heel of the Communist Party.
Everybody out there's got a dead relative. Everybody out there, a dead relative. Lawyer up. Remember what CNN, go back and look at the CNN reports. Look at the mainstream media reports. And then look at War and Pandemic. Lawyer up. Lawyer up. The lies, the misrepresentation, the spin, the taking what the Chinese Communist Party said is fact and putting it out as reality. And they sit there and have the gall to say, "Oh, there's no evidence. There's baseless. The election fraud's baseless. There's no evidence to that." And at the same time, they lied and spun about the Chinese Communist Party in Wuhan. Don't take it from me. Just get yourself a smart lawyer. Let them look through the facts. Let them look through what was said. Look at the timeline. Go back to all the journals. Go back to all the scientists. Go back to CNN. Go back to all of them. Don't take it from Bannon. Don't take it from crazy Steve Bannon. No, just get a smart lawyer. Every casket's going to have a lawyer. And what Mike Pompeo, he gave you signal, not noise in that last paragraph. Okay? Accountability.
It sets out the predicate for a global tort holding the Chinese Communist Party responsible for every single piece of economic destruction, human destruction, national destruction. They are accountable, and this is the first shot across the bow.
What's the over and under when the first ad starts on TV? 800. If you've had what's the over and under on that? Okay, that's signal, not noise, ladies and gentlemen. That is tomorrow's news today. Okay, real quickly. We got the great Michael Yan, one of the greatest combat correspondents out there, been all over the world. We're going to have him on next week in more detail about what went on in the Capitol. But I had to get you on for this breaking news that Posobiec and you actually got it to us. In Tallahassee, a bad guy, a former military guy, arrested by federal authorities who are going to attack MAGA protesters. You've warned us about this for years. What? Tell us about these guys and how dangerous are this Antifa guys you've been following from Portland?
Oh, yeah. I was over in Turkey in 2014. The UK government asked me to do something in regard to Syria with full knowledge of the U.S. government. So I was working with Syrians, and they told me back then about Antifa. So, working with YPG, which is a Kurdish terrorist organization. Of course, I've been out with Kurdish quite a lot, but not with YPG. But Antifa has been doing that for quite a while. And not only training and fighting over there, but also with the FSA as well, the Free Syrian Army, and also in Hong Kong. As you know, I was with Antifa in Hong Kong, watching them learn from the Hong Kongers while I was out with the Hong Kongers. So Antifa gets around, and some are former military, or they go out and get serious military experience. And you see the way they've run some of the operations, for instance, on the Capitol. That's not a Yahoo operation. They've clearly learned their trade.
Michael, real quickly, how much Rudy's saying today he'll be able to present evidence that's 200. We got about a minute and a half left. 200 Antifa accelerators were at the Capitol. What is your reporting? I know you've got a lot of stuff you're going to put online this week. What is your reporting? Is your reporting verify that, or is that a huge number, a small number, or you think that's close to being right?
Oh, that sounds directionally accurate. It certainly was not in the thousands, and it was not in the dozens. 200-300, that sounds reasonable. I mean, based on all the things that I saw on the many, many videos that I've been watching until 2 a.m, that sounds about right. Let's say 200 or 300. That's directionally accurate.
So, Michael, how do people get access to your videos, your commentary? You're following this. You're still in Washington. You've been following this very closely. You go throughout the world and follow this. How do people get access to you?
Right. They can go to my Patreon. My name is Michael Yon. Last name is Y-O-N, Yankee Oscar November. Or my Twitter, which is still on. I'm surprised. I'm surprised they haven't blocked me along with you. Yeah. And so I'm writing something for Epoch right now, just at Epoch Times. They're doing incredible work on this. I did an interview with Josh Phillip recently. Josh, he's doing fantastic work. And so they can find me with Josh. Yeah. Josh Phillip interview.
We've got that up already. When's your Epoch Times piece is coming out? When can people look for that?
Well, they wanted it a few days ago, but I've been out doing things to make sure other people know about this. Okay. So it should be very soon. As soon as we hang up, I'm on that article.
Okay, Michael Yon, thank you. Another American patriot. Okay, we're going to be back on Monday, 10 o'clock, and we're talking about the confirmation hearings for the Biden administration, where we're talking about Wuhan and the Chinese Communist Party, tying all the geopolitics, the finance together, but particularly talking about the trial of the century in the predicate. Remember, the shifting the goalposts. They know they can't prove what they impeach him on in the House. They're now going to say, hey, all the lies and misrepresentations about the voter fraud, that's going to be it. So we're going to go into detail. We're going to start showing you the receipts once again. Okay, until 10 a.m. On Monday. This is War Room Pandemic. Greg Manns, Jack Maxey, Stephen K. Bannon. We'll see you Monday.